watching Newsround at the start of a brand new week.
Yeah, Sonali and Ricky here with you tonight with some of the top stories. Stick around for the latest record broken by the cast of Glee.
And how to rescue people from avalanches.
But first, to a massive fight over London's Olympic Stadium.
When the city asked to host the 2012 Games, organisers promised that the main stadium would be used for athletics and other sports once the Games were over.
But it now looks like the promise might be broken. At big events like last year's World Cup in South Africa and the Beijing Olympics, the stadium takes centre stage. And you'll soon get used to seeing this one because the Olympics are heading to London next summer and this is where all the action's going to be. Usain Bolt is just one of hundreds of the biggest athletic stars in the world who will be going for gold down on the track. Now it's really exciting to imagine all that's going to take place right here, but the big question now is what's going to happen to the stadium when it's all over? Well, two Premier League football teams, West Ham and Tottenham Hotspur, want to make the stadium their new home. West Ham say if they get it, they'll keep the athletics track and the stadium can be used for more than one sport. But Spurs want a football-only venue. Tottenham say keeping an athletics track means footy fans won't be able to see the ball properly as they'll be too far away from the action. They plan to bulldoze the current stadium and build another one in its place just for football. But they also say they're committed to renovating another athletics arena nearby. Organisers of the Olympics say if Spurs knock the Olympic Stadium down, Britain will have broken its promise to help other sports like athletics. The promise it made before London was awarded the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
I really think that we have to be very, very careful about how we are prepared to potentially trash our international reputation.
It's thought a final decision would be made this Friday, but now that's been pushed back. So we'll have to wait a while yet to see if either club will get the keys.
Now to the footy comments that have got loads of people's blood boiling.
Richard Keys and Andy Gray, here they are two of the best-known Sky Sports presenters.
But over the weekend, they were overheard saying someone needed to teach this assistant referee, Sian Massey, the offside rule because she's a girl. Listen carefully to this.
Somebody better get down there and explain offside to her.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe that? Screaming linesman. That's exactly what I said. Women don't know the offside rule.
Of course they don't.
Of course she's going to know the offside rule. Now, as you might imagine, they're in quite a bit of trouble for saying that. The channel they work for, Sky Sports, said even though they didn't go out on TV, the fact they made the comments at all was completely unacceptable.
And I've got to say, I saw the highlights of the game that Sian was a lineswoman in, Wolves-Liverpool, and she made a big offside decision, and replays showed that she was absolutely right.
There you go. Right, next to Russia, where there's been an explosion in the country's busiest airport.
At least 31 people have been killed and more than 100 hurt at Moscow's Domodedovo airport. No one's sure yet who carried out the bomb attack. Security has now been increased in the country. Over in Australia, the flooding hasn't stopped yet. The northern state of Queensland may have started to clean up, but further south in Victoria, the waters are still rising.
Now people are also worried that all this flooding could be damaging the country's world-famous Great Barrier Reef.
As the floodwaters drain away, this is what Queensland looks like. There's brown sludge everywhere, damaged houses and cars and debris piled up after being swept away by the raging waters. Almost 2 months after the first floods, people are trying to get back to normal life. These kids have started school again, although they've had to change schools because of the flooding. Down south in the state of Victoria, they normally worry about hot weather causing bushfires at this time of year. Instead, 75 towns are already flooded, and the worst is still to come. There's a sea of water 55 miles long where the land should be, and it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. People are building walls of sandbags to keep the waters under control, and farmers are moving as many of their animals as possible to higher ground. But it's not just the land that's being affected. Scientists are now worried about the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Queensland. As floodwaters have swept into the sea, they've dumped mud and chemicals from the fields onto the sensitive coral. Thousands of tourists come to see the barrier reef and the marine life that depends on it every year. Scientists are now watching the area closely, but it may be years before they know how much damage has been done.
Bit of showbiz now, and the cast of Glee have broken another record. They've managed to score 20 top 40 hits in about a year, which is faster than any other act in history.
Now, the last artist to do that was Elvis Presley, and he managed to hang on to the record for 50 years.
Right, there's been quite a lot of snow all over the UK recently, you don't need me to tell you that, but while some of us have been loving it, there are loads of mountains in parts of the country which can become very dangerous.
Hayley's been to Scotland to see how they're trying to keep skiers safe from avalanches.
The Glencoe Mountains in the Highlands of Scotland. It's really high up, which means it gets very cold. So lots of the snow that has hit the UK this winter is still here, which means skiing is a pretty big deal.
But while the snow leaves the mountains looking like a winter wonderland, one wrong move and this fluffy stuff can become very dangerous.
Because of this, an avalanche. At their biggest, they can travel faster than a car on the motorway and weigh the same as an oil tanker. Some of the biggest have destroyed whole villages.
What's it like to be caught in an avalanche? Well, I think the best way of describing it would be to be being stuffed into a washing machine. You just don't know which way's up, which way's down, you're being tumbled round and round. Even if you're up to your waist, you couldn't get your legs out without using a shovel to dig yourself out.
Last year, 5 people were killed in avalanches in Glencoe. With so much snow this winter, there's been 6 slides in one weekend. So for the first time in the UK, an avalanche rescue centre has been set up here.
This area is basically to educate people and to help people to improve the chances of finding people who are buried.
So this looks like a pretty nifty gadget you've got. How does that work?
Right, well, this transmits or sends a beeping signal constantly all the time you're wearing it. Okay. So if it does avalanche, then your friend can come down, switch his to receive, and he can then find your signal and dig you out of the snow.
You have to go back 30 years for a time when the UK had more snow, which means more people hitting the slopes. But the rescuers here are hoping that this training centre will make it safer for skiers.
I hope she's all right. Finally, it looks like the rat spotted behind a reporter at the Prime Minister's house on Downing Street enjoyed his last TV appearance so much that he's been back hogging the limelight.
But this time it was an ITV. Last time it was the BBC. What next?
Could be Sky. Just don't say anything about girl referees if
Very
you do
true.
go on Sky. That's
Very
it. We're
true.
out of time.
I'll have your next update at 10 to 7 over on the CBBC channel. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.